Beautiful. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Yeah,
Yay. Okay.
we did
Well,
it.
we did it. Yes. Go team. um, all right. So this is Train Your Brain podcast with our beautiful host, Kelsey Aida. She is the author of Actually I Can, and she is currently writing another book. And you are an author of Affirmations for Happiness. And you are a blogger. You have a podcast, Hi Vibin It, which you're the co-host of, and a retreat host, and just a beautiful person in general.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you're here. Um, so today we can let the conversation flow, and I do have a few questions for you because you are a self-love manifesting expert. So I want to start by asking you. I think it's a burning question for a lot of people, and you seem to have mastered this, which is radical self-love. So how do you radically love yourself every day?
Great question. So, radical self love is really a practice of doing what's best for yourself in the long term and making a conscious effort to know yourself, understand yourself, love and include all parts of yourself, and really to treat yourself how you would like your own baby. If you had a baby, you would just love that baby unconditionally. And even when they mess up, you'd be like, it's okay. I still love you so much. And even if they're super annoying, you still love them. So it's kind of like treating yourself like a baby, to simplify it in like really simple terms. But um, the difference between just like loving yourself and radical self love is that it's easy to like the parts of us that are likable, right? So it's easy to say, oh, I like that I teach a lot of people how to love themselves, and I like that I make money, and I like that I do this, and I like that I am this and that. But it's harder to love the parts of you that you don't like. Like, for example, if you tend to be really anxious, or if you tend to be an overachiever and that causes you to be a workaholic, or whatever, we all have our issues, right? And these all manifest in our personalities in different ways. And the real question is like, can you love those parts as well as the
Mm,
good parts? Can you love the parts that you don't even like? And when I say love, I mean, can you understand them enough to have compassion for them, to realize why they are part of you, and to relate to them in better ways? So, a lot of my work as a self love coach and mentor is to help people see the best of all of their parts so that they can love all of themselves. And that's why I call it radical self love.
yeah, not just picking and choosing
Right.
self-love. It's like all encompassing.
Not
Yeah.
just conditional self love, like, oh, I'll love myself when I lose 10 pounds, or I'll love myself when I achieve this goal, or I'll love myself when I don't act like that anymore. Like, no, no, no. That's the old way. The new way is I
Mhm.
always deserve more love, not less.
That's so beautiful. And I really like what you said about, some people saying like, oh, I'll love myself when, because I've heard people on a self-love journey who have been trying to get more healthy and get fit. And they say like, yeah, I got really fit and I had the body that I wanted, but I was still upset at the end of it. And I didn't
Right.
have confidence because I started from a place of lack and a place of not liking myself. And then I just kept with that journey, even though I was still, I was doing certain things that were better, but the mindset just wasn't there.
Right, because then they achieve the thing and they still don't love themselves, like how you said. And this is a beautiful example with exercise. Like, what's the sponsoring energy, or what's the reason why you're going to exercise? Like, if you're going to exercise because you hate your body and you want it to be smaller, that's a very different sponsoring energy than I'm going to exercise so I can move my body, feel good, treat my body to some movement today because I love myself, not because I don't love myself. So it's two very different angles, even though you're doing the same thing, exercise. The sponsoring energy makes a big difference in the results that you're going to get.
Yeah, that's a beautiful, beautiful way to put it. And I think it's like, it's so cool that so many people are getting acclimated with that now because, in the past it was like, some people might find motivation from like, like go, like just like hard mental pushing themselves, but not in the loving kind of way. And
Right.
I remember I had seen you talking about people having desires, like say they want someone to fall in love with, or say they want a nice car or a nice house. And you would say you have these desires, but like you have to like get underneath and see what is driving that. So can you talk more about that? And I think you mentioned it's called genuine desires, or you call it your genuine desire.
Yeah, yeah. So we can even go back to the gym example of I want to lose weight because why? So let's just do a little role playing. So let's say you were overweight and you wanted to lose weight. If I said, why do you want to lose weight? How do you think you're going to feel once you've lost the weight? Then you would say,
Sexy and healthy and happy.
okay, perfect, perfect. So really what you want is to feel sexy and happy and empowered. It's not so much actually about the weight. So in this scenario, that would be your
Mhm.
genuine desire. Another example would be like, let's say someone wants to manifest a partner or a soulmate, and then I could ask them why. And they would say, I want connection, I want partnership, or it could even be like, I don't want to be alone or whatever. And it's really about like, how do you think you're going to feel once you have that thing that you want? And that feeling, that essence, that's your genuine desire. The desire for the partnership or to lose weight or the car or the house, those are nice and they're fun and you can totally have them, but dig deeper to find the core feeling that you're after, because core feelings you can change right now. Core
Mm,
feelings you can start practicing more of right now, and you don't have to live your life in a conditional way where you say, I'm not going to allow myself to feel this feeling until I have that thing.
that is so beautiful. That's so beautiful. And you can like make yourself a vibrational match for whatever it is that you want. And
Exactly.
like you have talked about and I've heard about like um, saying affirmations and then not feeling them or feeling like a fraud, and how do you think that you can navigate that so you can say certain things that are more true to how you're feeling and you don't feel like this doesn't really sound like me.
Yeah. So with affirmations, I always say, like, tweak them and customize them to be in alignment with where you are in that moment. And this is what I teach in my first book, hashtag Actually I Can, the art of affirming yourself to greatness. And this is something that I really kept in mind when I was writing my second book, Affirmations for Happiness, because affirmations really don't help us that much. Honestly, they can hurt us if we use the whole fake it till you make it approach. So, if you want to manifest a bunch of money, so your new affirmation for your life is like, I'm a billionaire, right? And you just like go around the house saying that, but like obviously you're not a billionaire. So, part of you is like, dude, like get real. You sound so lame right now. So that's actually going to cause like a split in your consciousness, which we don't want. So what we could do is tweak the affirmation to still be empowering, to still be about making more money, but maybe instead of saying I am a billionaire, which clearly you're not, so you're going to feel stupid when you say that, you could be like, I am getting closer and closer to my dream of a prosperous life every day, or I'm open to becoming a billionaire in this lifetime, or things like that. So you change the wording and the essence becomes more authentic.
That is so smart. That's a beautiful way to put it, and like a different way to look at it, because you have, or at least I've heard a lot of people saying like, oh, I have my dream house, my dream car, this and that.
Right.
And then it just doesn't, it just doesn't sit well with the soul. And like the split, what was the term you used? Split.
Oh, it causes fragmentation. So
Mhm.
basically, it will like split your consciousness when you lie, or if you become traumatized or anything. We create splits in our mind from all different things, and this is how we become a person with so many different parts or fragments. But what the universe wants us to do is reclaim all our parts and bring all the fragments together and glue them back together one at a time. So if you're doing affirmations improperly and you're causing more fragmentation, that's not very helpful. What you want is healing and unity. So better to tailor the affirmations to really feel authentic and to feel expansive, instead of like an affirmation that's like a fake it till you make it one, and then you just feel more like closed when you say it. That's kind of how you can gauge like in your body if it's working for you. If it makes you feel worse about yourself, that's not the one for that moment. If it makes you feel better and open, then that's a good sign that you're on the right track.
Speaking of feeling it in your body, so a lot of people have some built up trauma, and then they could be like in the situation um where they're getting kind of false alarms. Like sometimes I'll be in a situation, and in this particular area I had been hurt before in the past, and so I'll be getting these alarms going off, and I find it hard to tell whether it's a gut feeling or whether it's just past negative things coming up. So is there a way that you are able to differentiate between like your body telling you something real, or you just having like false flags?
Yeah. So what you're talking about is like when you get triggered, basically. And it's
Yeah.
like you feel like that same thing is about to happen over again, or like it is happening, like your brain is convinced that it's happening over again, even if you might not actually be in danger or the situation is not repeating itself. What I found is to notice your specific patterns. So, like, notice when every time you feel that way and start taking inventory of like what triggers that feeling. And then you can go back in time and be like, well, was I really in danger or was I just getting triggered? And having
Mm.
that conscious awareness and just noticing how you're reacting to your life, that's going to be the healing piece that gives you perspective. So that, let's say, in the future you get triggered and you realize, oh, this is what always happens to me when I get stressed or whatever. I'm just doing this thing as a self-preservation mechanism. I'm not actually in danger. That's when you can like tap into your wise adult self, separate yourself from the trigger and kind of just watch it happen instead of being
Mm.
inside of the trigger and then not really having control over what's happening. Does that make
I
sense?
like that a lot. Yeah, yeah. It's almost like you're your own friend, like looking
Right.
out for yourself in the
Yeah.
moment.
Yes, that's a good analogy. It's kind of a lot of the work that I do is about being your own best friend and supporting yourself unconditionally and giving yourself unconditional presence, because really improving your relationship with yourself improves your relationship with everything in your life, because life is just a series of relationships, especially with other people, but also you have a relationship with your computer, you have a relationship with your home, you have a relationship with the grocery store, you have a relationship with social media, you have a relationship with yourself, you have a relationship with your dog, you have a relationship with your work. Like everything in life is relationships and relating. So the better you get at it, the better every area of your life gets, which is why I'm so passionate about teaching radical self-love, because the tools and practices in doing so will improve like every area of your life. Because if you think about yourself as the universe from a spiritual perspective, you're just always relating to different parts of yourself. So the better you are at self love, the better you are at love and relationships in general with anybody or anything.
Mm. Mm. Whoa, girl. That is no, that is so true, because everything, like, I think in most every situation you can like look at it and see a mirror of yourself. And I think in a lot of romantic relationships, some people can bring out certain things in you that needed attention drawn to them, whether the relationship worked out or it didn't. You might see like, oh wow, they're doing this thing, but I also do it to myself. So how could I have noticed it before if I wasn't loving my those parts of myself? And it only
Yep.
makes sense that they wouldn't, because then you're not valuing all of the parts of you.
Right. Everything is a mirror, which a lot of spiritual teachers call the law of attraction the law of mirroring. It's all the same. So, whatever's happening inside in the micro will be projected outside in the macro, which is why you'll see, like in the world, a lot of the themes that people are going through collectively, like transition and questioning things and whatever, that's also happening like in our lives individually, like on an individual level too, because it's all connected and it's all the same.
Damn. It really is so cool when you can like when you can, like, you and I are having this conversation right now and relating on so many levels. And I think there's been a rise up of conscious awareness in, in our generation. And I'm sure it's happened in its own way in many generations before, but I like that about everyone going through the same thing collectively and individually. It's very, it lets us know that even though we have a lot of differences, like underneath it all, we're all the same when the dust settles.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And if more people would see how we're all the same, it would be a much more peaceful world. Because I think a lot of times we're so busy looking for how we're different from other people. And I used to do this a lot because, like, I'm an Aquarius. I really value like individuality and uniqueness. And I'd be like, I'm so different. I'm so different. But then, like, eventually I got so stuck in that perspective that it was starting to hurt me, and I was starting to feel so different that I was feeling like outside, like I was losing my sense of belonging, um, and community. And so when I started asking myself the question, well, how am I the same as everybody else? How
Mhm.
am I the same as this person? How am I the same as that person? Then I just felt so much more connected to everything and everyone. And this is actually a practice that I teach at my Radical Self Love Retreat. And I have everyone go around and say to each other, like, I'm the same as you because. And usually it starts off as
Oh,
simple stuff like, oh, I'm the same as you because we both have brown hair. I'm the same as you because we're both women who wanted to come to Mexico. I'm the same as you because I love to travel. And then it gets deeper, like, I'm the same as you because I worry about what other people think about me, or I'm the same as you because sometimes I also cry myself to sleep, or I'm the same as you because um, I get stressed over little things, or whatever it is. And then everyone's just going around saying how they're all the same, and it bonds people so fast.
wow. Oh my gosh, Kelsey, that is amazing. That is so amazing. You've told me a few things that you do on your retreat. And that's actually how we started talking, because we had the Zoom call
Mhm.
when I was interested in it. So can you talk a little bit more about that? And, like, for whoever's watching, they might come. There's one in October and February.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to, like, tell a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so the retreat is basically my happy place to teach all of these healing modalities and self love techniques and practices, but in paradise. So we go to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and we stay in this gorgeous villa, and it's women only, and people come from all over the states, all over the world to stay together for a week and do fun vacation stuff and girly stuff, but also healing work, have Reiki done, get massages, eat good food, sip margaritas if that's your jam. Like, I really created my retreats to be a time to unwind, have fun, and up level in a spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical way. So we do a lot of yoga. I lead a lot of group coaching sessions. We do parts work where we interview each other's parts so we can get to know them better. And we do a lot of deep work, but also to balance it out, just fun, girly things like go shopping or parasail on the beach or ride ATVs in the mountains. Like, it kind of is a fun girls' trip plus a retreat.
That's awesome. So it's like it has levity and depth all in the same
Yes.
time. And it's
Yeah.
cool because, it's about a week long, but or a little, yeah, about a week long. And some people could be working on certain parts of themselves for months and months, but then they come here and they're surrounded by other people who have the same goal and, coming from all different walks of life. And then you could have like this intense self-love and self-fulfillment in a short amount of time and have the time of your life. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
That
and I
sounds really
think
cool.
one of the more powerful pieces is everyone coming together, and everyone who comes is always like wonderful women who are so incredible and so loving. And so when you can see yourself through their eyes, because everyone's like, oh my God, you're so cute, you're so awesome, you're so brave, you're so this, like everyone's giving compliments the whole week. So like even if you can just take in like a few of those compliments, you'll leave feeling like, oh my gosh, I never saw myself like this before, but you've always been like that awesome. It's just that you never bothered to like look or take it in, because what we do is like we deny ourselves self love because we're trying to motivate ourselves to avoid pain or to do certain things, usually to avoid pain. So we say,
Oh,
okay, I'm not going to love myself because if I did love myself, then I wouldn't work super hard to make all this money so that my wife doesn't leave me, or whatever it is. Like, there's always a deep reason of motivation that's actually pure because we're just trying to get our needs met. That is a valid reason for why we block our own love to ourselves. And what I do with people is try to get them to figure out what that is, and we unblock that. So you let the love flow.
Wow, I've never heard it put that way before. And it's so incredible because like I'm sure you've heard the quote, everything you want is on the other side of fear, and then you're helping people get to the other side of fear.
Mhm.
So that's really that just like opened up a passage in my mind.
Yep,
Damn. Yeah.
that's what I
Yeah, every
do.
time Yes. Yeah, you're awesome. Literally the first time that we had a Zoom call, within the first like minute and a half, you answered a few questions and it just like it stuck with me. So you're definitely a natural healer. And you healed yourself too, because I was reading that you had struggled with depression for 3 years, and then just with your mindset and with reading self-help books and really exploring self-love, you got yourself out of it. So could you talk more about that? Like, what was the change that happened within you? Was it a long process? Was it short?
Yeah, so I would say the actual process of being depressed felt really long because I was stuck in a really severely depressed state for like 3 years. And there was definitely like thoughts of suicide. Not that I actually ever attempted it, but I just was like, oh, it'd just be so much easier to just do that. It was kind of like a subtle want, but I knew that like people cared about me. So I was like, well, I'm not gonna like fuck up their lives just because my life's fucked up. So I was like, okay, we're not doing that. But obviously we need to figure out like some way to be happy because I can't like go on like this, right? So I started seeing a therapist, and that was very helpful. So I highly recommend, if you're in a tough spot, see a therapist or a coach or someone who can hold space for you. And I just realized one day that I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I was just like, no, like, this is not my life. Like, I used to be happy. Like, I don't really know the exact day when I became unhappy, but it happened like a slippery slope over time. And I remembered, like, oh, I used to be bubbly and have hobbies and like people. And I just kind of like remembered who I was naturally. And then I had
Mm,
this thought of like, well, maybe I'm just sick. Like, when someone gets a cold, like they don't have a cold forever, or they just have a cold for like a week and then their body heals it and then they move on and then they're back to their normal self. So I was like, well, I'm just going to change my viewpoint and not be like, I am my depression, but just like, I have depression, just like you would have a cold or you would have a flu or whatever. And
yeah.
that gave me enough like space and separation from the disease to not identify as it. And I was real that I had it, but I wasn't like thinking about myself as a depressed person. I was thinking about myself as a person who was suffering from depression temporarily, like any other
Mm,
sickness. I was like, it's temporary. So when I made that mental shift, that was really when the universe like started showing up in profound ways with certain books or podcasts or workshops or resources that were teaching me about positive thinking and gratitude lists and feeling better and healing your emotions and manifesting your desires and blah blah blah. So after a few weeks of doing a gratitude journal, which is really what kicked the depression to the curb, like on the final straw,
mm,
I started feeling so good, and I had raised my vibration, and I had reprogrammed my brain to look for what was right about life and to look for what I appreciated and what brought me pleasure and joy. And just rewiring those neural pathways in my brain was so powerful that I was feeling better than I felt even before I was depressed. So that was when I was like, damn, this personal development shit is working. I was like, I need to teach everybody how to do this. This is so cool. Because, like, if I can do it, that's great. But, like, I see myself as everybody. So like I'm just one part of me that's like feeling good. But until everybody's feeling good, like my work's not done, right? So I was like, okay, got to share this information. I'm going to become a personal development author. I'm going to write books, yada yada. And so fast forward all these years later, now I'm doing that stuff. But the depression was really the catalyst for me becoming this teacher. And I just want people to recognize that the contrast or the shitty things that happen
mm,
in life they have value and they have purpose. And it really taught me about my emotions. It taught me what doesn't work when dealing with emotions. It taught me what teaches people to be sad and what helps lift them out. And so I learned a lot. It was not fun, but it was worth it.
Yeah, definitely worth it. I'm sure you don't regret anything. Like, even though things can be so hard, like you said, they all have purpose, and you can appreciate the downs, like you appreciate the ups because it got you to this place. Like, even sometimes, when I'll be like sad or crying, like in the moment, it's like, yeah, this sucked, but you know that this is a fraction of life, and it's going to be ups and downs no matter what. And if you can just find like, all right, what is this supposed to be teaching me, or how can I help someone in the future who's going through this, since I know that I've went through it, and that's exactly what you're doing. And I'm sure you've affected so many lives and touched so many lives, and and to not take your life because you're like, okay, people love me, and it would like just pass on the pain. That's really brave too. So it's like, it's really cool to be talking to you about this and like having this open conversation, because I think a lot of people might be like afraid to talk about it, or only talk about it with like one person and not realize how many other people have felt this way, even if they seem like they
Right.
have it all going for them.
Right, right. And I think the other thing about people who commit suicide too is I feel like, and I have had my intuitive medium moments where I've talked to people on the other side who have passed, which we don't need to get into that because there's a whole rabbit hole. But I will say that usually when people do that, they regret it. And from a spiritual perspective, it's like if you cut your life short, you could be like forfeiting the lessons that you came here to learn. And so when you come back, if you believe in reincarnation, which I do, then you're just gonna have to redo all the lessons. So better to just get it done the first time than to go through and cut the game short and then have to start from like square one next time you come back. So I think a part of me was like, oh, I don't want to start over. And then another part of me was like, I have so much life to live. I just don't know how to do it in a way that feels good. So when I made my dominant intention to really enjoy my life and to feel good doing it, the universe definitely delivered over time.
Over time, yeah, a process, but a
Yeah.
a meaningful and beautiful one. And like, how do you think that how would you give advice to people who need to pour into their own well more, like sometimes I'll go to other people for help and other
Mhm.
people for advice, but I'm trying to get better at coming to myself and being able to listen to what I think is best. And I talk with my therapist about this, and I'm like, yeah, like my friends would uplift me in this way, and they would tell me this, and this person would tell me this, and she's like, okay, well, where do you stand on that? And I'm like, that's a good question. So what would you say about just being there for yourself and empowering yourself?
Yeah, I would say notice in your body how it feels when you listen to yourself and things go right, and notice like how it feels when you don't listen to yourself and things go wrong. So like over time take an inventory of like, oh, I remember that one time I had this intuitive nudge but then I didn't do it and then I totally missed out or I totally regretted it or it didn't flow or whatever. And then same thing in the opposite direction, like, oh, I remember that one time I was feeling really inspired and I followed the flow and then it totally worked out and it led me to this. So I think it's kind of like going back and looking at your personal patterns again would be like the answer to that. But as far as self trust, like you can't get it wrong. You can't be off your path. You can just learn things like easier ways or harder ways, but you're going to learn them and you're going to get there. So
I
knowing
like
that,
that.
I think helps a little bit too.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you someone put it in this kind of analogy, if you don't know where you're going and you have a GPS, you've never been to this spot before, you could miss a turn, you could get turned around, there could be traffic, but you're still going to get where you're going.
Right.
So whether you go down this road and see these sites, or this road and see those, and you still ultimately are going to be where you're supposed to be.
Yeah. The
And
GPS
I
analogy
had
is a
some more
good one.
questions.
Sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
people. No, no, that's okay. That's okay. Let's see, because I was like, wrote some things down and we were bopping around so beautifully, and like
Yeah.
it hit a lot of them. Um, so since a lot of people have like emotional trauma that they carry with them, um, and you're huge into healing, like what would you say would be the first step to healing some like past emotional baggage?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is to just validate that you have a good reason for feeling how you do, and like it's a normal response to your life, and there's nothing wrong with you for feeling how you feel. So just validating like this thing happened to me, it really disappointed me, or it really messed me up, or it really whatever. Just giving that like validation to yourself and for yourself, I think is so healing in and of itself. And then the thing that I really work with, like with my one-on-one clients and a lot of the work that I teach, is just unresolved emotions. So when you're in a distressed emotional state, all they need is unconditional presence. So they don't need you to change them, they don't need you to fix them. It's just like if there was a sad person, they would just need you to like sit there and like let them be sad, and like maybe you give them a hug. But you don't say
Mm.
like, "Oh, feel better. Oh, you suck. Oh, you don't have a good reason to be sad. Oh, you shouldn't be sad. Just get over it. Everything's fine now." Like that's what we do to ourselves when really it's a lot more helpful to just be like, you know what, me, I get why you're sad. Anyone in this situation would be sad. And I'm just going to breathe deeply and experience this sadness. And I'm going to cry if I need to cry. I'm going to yell if I need to yell. And I'm just going to let this sadness run its course through my body. And then
Mm.
after a few minutes of doing that, you will be surprised how much relief comes from just allowing how you were really feeling to finally be felt without judgment.
Wow, that's incredible because literally like some people get in the habit of just like suppressing
Mhm.
things, and then it comes out in weird ways at times that you don't expect it. And I think like in a lot of cases like the only way out is through.
Yeah.
And you know, like even whether you're going through like a breakup, or like whether you, I don't know, you got into a car accident and you're just like dealing with all that, if you just like sit and just let it wash over you and just take the time to be like, yeah, this sucks, and like I understand why I'm feeling this way, then like you can probably heal a lot faster. And then you can kind of just realize like, okay, what is an emotion anyway? You know, like my heartbeat might go up, my cheeks might get red, I'm going to feel bad, but it's not the end of the world. Like I'm still here, I'm still breathing, and I can go on and do more cool things in my life.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
a
definitely like
temporary,
cool.
fleeting experience. And the sooner you tend to it and just give it some time and space to do its thing in your body without suppressing it or denying it or shoving it down, the faster you can get through it and the more resilient you become. And when you're doing that process of feeling your feeling, really focus on how it feels in the body. You don't have to go too much into the thoughts. You don't have to go too much into like the timeline and project it into the future. Like just be in the present moment, notice how that sensation feels in your body, and see if that brings you any relief within a certain amount of minutes.
Mm, I like that a lot. And you can definitely almost like feel it rushing through you, you know? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's really really cool. And like I think definitely like I know sometimes I get too much into my head, and I'll try to like, if I'm feeling a cool emotion, I'll kind of like ruin it by like thinking like, oh, this feels like that, instead of just letting it happen and like not really thinking, you know? So it's definitely, I think it's definitely sometimes good to just let everything flow as it should, rather than trying to pin a word to it, you know?
Yeah, and it might be scary at first, and it's gonna get easier with practice. And so, if you're like terrified to feel your emotions, or if you feel like you're really traumatized, like please do this in a therapist's office, or like see me as like a coach. I can hold space for you, because the what's worse than being in pain is being in pain alone. You know,
Mm,
like that's really what causes a lot of unnecessary suffering. And then also, like invalidating your own pain makes for more suffering than necessary, and judging your pain or deeming it